Hey everybody, it's the Tabletop Tyrant. I'm back. So, I promised a video tutorial every Thursday, or a video at least, and well, I finally got one up. So, going into how I painted the model. So, first things first, I started off with an off-brand green primer can. I believe it was from Walmart, and it was the green camo, for anyone that's interested. And then I slowly went over and I airbrushed over Death Guard green all over the parts that I wanted to be green or parts that I thought should be green. So I went ahead and I did that. Now after my Death Guard green, I top sprayed down Elysian green. I like Elysian green because it has that little yellow hue to it. And for Nurgle units, it tends to leave a really good effect when using streaking ground, which I use later on. So after that, I took something I learned from my Possessed painting for the Alpha Legion, and that was the skin. So I based all the skin, even on the Sorceress, I based that with Nagarath Knight, followed by Screamer Pink on the raised edges. And then for the very final highlight of the flesh, I used Rackhearth flesh, hitting the very extreme level edges that would be hit by light or anything of that nature. The next thing I did was I went through and I took all the wood, leather, clothing, anything I wanted to be brown, and I airbrushed it with Rhinox hide. Now if you have good finger pressure and control your airbrush, you'll be able to get in there and do it with an airbrush. If not, you can always go in with a brush and do it. It'll do the same effect. After everything, I hit Rhinox. I hit the front tusks, I hit the wood, I hit the clothing, and I hit the straps leading up to the Goriest. And then after that, I put Doom Bull Brown in my airbrush, and I kind of sprayed it on all the raised edges and anything that I wanted to be highlighted. Now following that, only for the wood pieces only, I took Doom Bull Brown and I took Gorthor Brown, and I did a 50-50 mix. So I took 1 part Doom Bull Brown, 1 part Gorthor Brown, mixed it in the airbrush, and I sprayed it on the wood to give it more of an aged wood effect. Now I like that, it did a lot, it did well. I also sprayed on the shield on the side, and it did well. So after that, I went through on the tusks in the front of the Chariot and I airbrushed Morghast Bone. I wanted those to be a little darker. And then on the sides of the Chariot, I did a base coat of Morghast Brown on top of that. Followed by a airbrush blast of Wraithbone near the tips and the raised areas. So after all of that, I ended up doing Steel Legion Drab on the base. I airbrushed it. I just kind of wanted to get it done so I could tell some difference in between the greens, because if the whole mini's green, it tends to throw off how I see it. So for me personally, I just throw a color down the base, whatever the base color is going to be, and I go from there. After that, it was going through and applying lead belcher over all the metal bits and bits that I wanted to be metal. And then I went through, I did all the bits and all the pieces I wanted to be metal, and I did them in lead belcher. I like that silver or metal color because it works really well with a multitude of shades, whereas like Iron Warriors is too dark to work with Seraphim in a proper way. So I chose lead belcher due to the way it highlights and shades. After that, I went down and I got the white bits on the Sorceress, and I used Ulthuan Grey to pick out the skulls and anything that I thought was bone. Big thing to remember when doing this is that I'm applying these colors to the Chariot and to the sorceress at the same time. So as I did the green on the Chariot, I also did the green on the sorceress, and so on and so forth. That way I'm not double dipping into my paints and wasting time. So to continue on after that, I went through and I washed everything that wasn't flesh in Agrax or shape. And then all the fleshy bits, I ended up washing it in Reichland, including the highlighted stuff that was purple. The Charioteer, however, just got a coat of Brackhearth. He wasn't highlighted with the purples and pinks because he wasn't big enough, and also I didn't want him to look rotted. Because he's not like that big of a deal. He's just a Charioteer guy. You know, he's not going to be touched by the guns. So after doing that, I went through and on the very, very raised edges of the metallics, I went through and I added Seraphim Sepia to give it a very like dirty tinge to that metal. It's very important with Nurgle, I feel, to get a multitude of different colors on something to kind of show it's aged or weathered. With all that being done, I went through and I started adding chips to the side of the Chariot. I used dryad bark. I started chipping away anything that would be touched or a raised area. After that, I took AK Interactive Streaking Grime. I built up around the bottom of the plates to make it look like it had been dirty and settled, as well as applying it over where I did the chipping effects. After that, I brought out Lead Belcher and I touched up all the metal bits, as well as touching upon the chipped, aged area on the Chariot. And then I took Iron Breaker and followed and did it more in the raised areas. I went through and I added Rise of Rust to anything that was chipping damage to give a rusty effect. So after all the rusting was done, I went through and I applied Nihilic Oxide. I don't even know if that's how it's said. I've just been calling it that for 10 years. So I applied Nihilic Oxide on all the brassy bits that I wanted to look aged and worn. So now that we have completely finished with the Chariot, we move on to the Sorceress. So I picked up at the Sorceress highlighting the black. With that, I did Corvus Black, followed by Skaven Blight Dinge to give it more of a worn and dirty gray. After that, it was time to do the boils and swords. So I did the boils, Baylor Brown, followed by Ushabti, and the very tip of the boil. And then I did anything that looked like it was an open wound. I just kind of did it in the interior. So I left the Ushabti like in the very, very raised area of the boil. All right, so that moves on to like the last big important piece of this mini, and it was going through and doing that tentacle. So I relayered Screamer Pink. After that, did Word Bearers Red. And then after that, I did a fine little blend of Wild Rider Red and applied Art Coat across the entire tentacle to give it a coat of gloss to make it look wet and slimy. after that, I went through with the airbrush and I based the entire mini with Skaven Blight Dinge for the rock. I then applied a dry brush of Morghast Bone to the entire base, and I glued some green tufts along the side and painted the rim black, and this is the finished product. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It was a lot of fun to make. It was fun for me. Follow me for more fantasy battles. In Age of Sigmar, I'll be covering the new Slaves of Darkness set that just dropped, so follow me for that. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Take care and have a wonderful day. Peace.